Hi friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. Han Solo, the original Adidas track pants model, and my favorite Star Wars character. I like him because he doesn't easily commit to a cause, and is wise enough to stay out of the whole Imperial and Rebel conflict, until he meets a girl who he really wants to impress. It kind of reminds me of something I would do. But before he became a rebellion hero, before he started fighting for a cause, Han Solo was just a smuggler. And I'm not just talking about hiding some data pads beneath the floorboards of your ship in order to avoid some tariffs. I'm talking about all the most dangerous and crazy stuff in the galaxy. Like any self-respecting smuggler, Han rarely questioned what kind of cargo he was carrying, which led to some really interesting situations. And that's what we're going to talk about today. The 10 craziest things that Han Solo has smuggled aboard his Millennium Falcon. Just a warning, this video might change your opinion about the man just a little bit. When Han Solo first won the Millennium Falcon off of Lando Calrissian, he decided to fulfill a promise he had made to Chewbacca almost 3 years before when they first met. See, Chewbacca's homeworld was a planet called Kashyyyk, and it had been turned into a slave colony by the Empire. The Imperial Navy had blockaded the entire planet, so it made it really hard for Wookiees to visit their homeworld. Because of this, Chewie hadn't seen his family and loved ones in several years. But now with a ship like the Millennium Falcon, they could quickly and safely make it past the Imperial blockade. Of course, Han, being the businessman that he was, didn't want to go empty-handed. He knew the Wookiee resistance on the planet probably needed supplies, so he decided to take with him several bushels of corals. Corals were metal projectiles surrounded by plasma and used as ammunition for a Wookiee bowcaster. Not only were they extremely powerful, they also exploded on contact, which made aiming a lot less important during the battle, but it also made it harder to identify your enemies after the battle. The Wookiees didn't have any credits to trade for corals because, not to be racist or anything, but species that live in trees usually don't have that much money. Luckily, the Wookiees loved jumping from said trees and massacring any stormtroopers stupid enough to patrol close to their villages, and they had built a huge stockpile of stormtrooper armor, which was extremely illegal for citizens to buy, which also made it extremely expensive and valuable on the black market. Due to demand from cosplayers, Han ended up making a lot of money. After the Battle of Yavin, the Millennium Falcon was contacted by the Rebel Alliance outpost Firebase Alpha for some emergency supplies. En route, Chewbacca scanned the cargo bay for some energy signals and found some unwanted stowaways. Apparently, whoever had given them the supplies on Tatooine had hidden an Imperial baridium bomb on board. Baridium is basically the chemical equivalent of what would happen if nitroglycerin and Gary Busey had a baby, and Gary Busey, despite being advised by his doctor not to do so, railed lines at Coke during his entire third trimester. Which is a very volatile, unbalanced, and unstable explosive. Naturally, Chewie and Han wanted to get rid of the explosive, but because of a previous firefight, the Millennium Falcon's cargo bay wouldn't open from the inside, so Han Solo had to make a spacewalk and open the ship from the outside. In his earlier days, most of Han Solo's jobs came from the Hutts. Jabba the Hutt really liked working with Han because he was one of the most talented pilots in Nar Shaddaa, and now that he had the Millennium Falcon, he was basically unstoppable. The product that Jabba had Han move around was one of the most illicit and profitable goods in the entire galaxy: spice. There are many different types of spice, but for the most part, the entire trade was regulated and controlled by the Empire, making it extremely expensive and illegal for an ordinary citizen to get hold of. The most potent and valuable spice was known as glitter stem. Produced from the silk of energy spiders, glitter stem gave its users a feeling of pleasure and also gave the user telepathic abilities. So not only was this a feel-good drug, but one with some very practical uses, especially if you're an Imperial interrogator. And in their earlier days, that was the preferred cargo of Han and Chewbacca, along with dependency, addiction, and broken dreams. Before he joined the Rebel Alliance, Han had another girlfriend who was also an idealistic rebel. She had conned Han into helping her take down the Hutt spice factory world of Yalicia. It was staffed by slaves, and the Rebel Alliance wanted to free those slaves and hopefully recruit a few of them to their cause. In return, Han would get a portion of the spice of the planet along with any treasure they managed to loot from the facilities. Han's friend ended up screwing him over and leaving him with basically nothing. And to make matters worse, as Han and Chewbacca were scavenging the ruins of the planet to look for something to sell, Chewbacca ran into 9 slave children who had been accidentally left behind in a cellar. Han, being a decent human being, had no choice but to give him a ride. On his way off-world, Jabba contacted the Falcon with a mission to smuggle a large quantity of glitter stem. Instead of doing the responsible thing and dropping the slave children off to somewhere safe, he decides to do a drug run with them on board. To Chewbacca's credit, he did insist on getting some milk and sandwiches for the children. Either Chewbacca had a heart of gold or he was fattening those kids up for his latest culinary adventure. Cannibalism. It's only funny when it's not happening to you. Should probably put that on a t-shirt, actually. Anyway, Han was hit by instant karma for involving children in his drug-running adventures. Imperial inspectors caught up to his ship, and he had to dump all of his spice into space to avoid being arrested. Luckily for Han, he still had these slave children on board, so he made up a sob story about him returning these kids to Corellia. Not believing him completely, the Imperials decide to escort Han back to Corellia, where he's greeted as a hero for saving all the children. Han and Chewie then quickly rush back to the location where they dumped the glitter stem, but found an Imperial patrol waiting. They make a hasty escape, and Han somehow managed to jump through the Kessel Run in under 12 parsecs, setting that very famous record. He also never finds the spice again, which really pisses off Jabba the Hutt, which is why he has such a large bounty on his head at the beginning of the original trilogy. So as you can see, the Millennium Falcon has been used throughout its history for many illicit reasons. During that time, Han Solo managed to pilot around wanted war criminal Obi-Wan Kenobi. The dangerous old man was a part of an old religious cult known as the Jedi. He, along with the rest of his order, were accused of turning against the Republic and attempting to assassinate the Chancellor. Han Solo would also pilot around future war criminal Luke Skywalker, the infamous rebel pilot who destroyed the first Death Star, killing millions of innocent Imperials. Lastly, we have Princess Leia Organa, one of the youngest individuals to ever be appointed to the Imperial Senate, and one of the youngest individuals to be accused of treason. Leia was wanted for smuggling weapons, stealing secret Imperial plans, and being just downright adorable when she gets angry. Han Solo and the Millennium Falcon was once hired to break out a prisoner from the slave mines of Kessel. The individual was a man named Tiber Zahn, the head of the criminal syndicate, the Zahn Consortium. This crazy, legendary bastard will go on to one day board and capture the superstar destroyer Eclipse. Han pulled off the daring rescue by pretending to be on just another ordinary spice run. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the only thing that Han Solo smuggled that probably couldn't fit in the Millennium Falcon. We're talking, of course, about the Raftar. These gigantic tentacled beasts were perhaps one of the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. They had rows upon rows of teeth and pretty much devoured everything in their way, including Han and Chewie's entire crew. Anyway, Han was using the Baleen-class heavy freighter Eravana at the time to ship 3 of these large creatures. But when criminals boarded his ship looking to collect the bounty on his head, the Raptors burst out of their containment areas and began killing everyone on board. Han and Chewie enter the Falcon and just managed to escape into hyperspace with a Raftar clinging onto the front of their ship, which apparently is only the second best way to cook a Raftar. The best way involves a Hutt, a Rancor, at least half a dozen Ewoks, and a Starforge. We should probably put that in a cookbook. After the destruction of Imperial forces at the Battle of Endor, many worlds still remained under control of the Empire. This included the world of Kashyyyk. Han was kind of pissed off at the rebellion for not making the Wookiee homeworld a first priority. The planet had been enslaved since the rise of the New Order just after the Clone War had ended. The Wookiees had been fighting bravely alongside the rebellion and deserved to have their world be freed. And things were getting much worse on the planet's surface. The Imperials were now putting inhibitor chips into the Wookiees' heads and increasing slave production. As a part of his overall campaign to save Kashyyyk, Han launched a daring mission to rescue his buddy Chewbacca from the Imperial prison Asmed's Lock, a former prison ship that had crashed onto the planet's surface. Han successfully rescued his Wookiee partner and also managed to rescue several other rebel prisoners. Unfortunately, those prisoners were actually sleeper cells created by the Empire and had been purposely placed there to be rescued by the Rebel Alliance. These prisoners were sent to Chandrilla, where they would take part in Liberation Day celebrations along with several high-ranking New Republic officials. When the celebrations started, the sleeper cell activated and they started shooting everyone, including a lot of high-ranking New Republic officials. Throughout its history, the Millennium Falcon has been used as an assault troop ship, which makes sense. It has a large enough interior to carry several dozen living beings. It was heavily armored and heavily armed. The ship was also extremely fast and had one of the best piloting duos in the galaxy. The Falcon has carried all types of different troops, including Rebel Alliance Special Forces, New Republic troopers, Togarian hunting squads, and Wookiee resistance fighters. And it's not really that surprising that most of the operations that the Millennium Falcon was involved in turned out to be successful. After all, getting your troops to the objective alive is half the battle. 2 times in the Millennium Falcon's history, it's been the most wanted ship in the galaxy, mainly because it was carrying a droid that happened to have some great secret hidden within it. In Episode 4, A New Hope, that secret happened to be a blueprint for a giant orbital station that many rebels died getting their hands on, and that could potentially turn the tide of the entire war. The second time this happened was 30 years later when a small droid was a passenger on the ship carrying a portion of a secret map that led to the last remaining Jedi in the entire galaxy. Whether it's the Empire or the First Order chasing you, there's probably no safer place to be than on the Millennium Falcon, or inside the pouch of a kangaroo. Aww. Han Solo has carried a ton of random crap on his beat-up old freighter. He's been a drug smuggler, weapons runner, human trafficker, terrorist people carrier, and many other different things. The fact that he's allowed so many crazy things onto his ship just goes to show you how professional the guy is. The best smugglers never really ask any questions. They just take your credits and make sure the package gets to its destination. FedEx. How am I supposed to know you guys have strict rules against shipping live animals in cardboard boxes? And no, I'm not gonna buy an Ewok an airplane ticket. I like fresh meat, but not that much. On that awesome note, stay tuned to Generation Tech. We got a whole lot more Han Solo backstory coverage coming up this week for the Solo Star Wars movie. So don't forget to hit that subscribe and notification button so you don't miss out on all that good stuff. Thanks for joining us today. If you're watching this, you are Generation Tech.